First of all, Laird, I'm sure many have not heard of Laird. We are a company of about 9,000 people. We have about 50 locations worldwide, all through Americas, Europe, and heavy into China and the surrounding countries. We are primarily an engineering company, and we do manufacturing. So at most locations, you will find the engineers right there along with the manufacturing. And the idea is smart technology delivered. We're very quick at taking in an order and creating it literally within days to get it back out to be approved. So specialize in performance materials, primarily around smartphones. Connected vehicle solutions, we're heavy into antennas and some of the embedded solutions. And finally, wireless and thermal systems, again, antennas. Also too, like handhelds. So for instance, the handhelds that would control trains, for instance. So very, very technical and critical pieces of equipment. The other part I wanted to mention that a lot of this that I'm going to talk about is going to relate to previous place that I've worked also. I've worked for about 14 years for a very large beer company here in town that's also global. So a lot of the examples will be around that. First of all, generally the workplace experience. When I left there, I was in charge of the workplace experience, so everything from email, SharePoint, the desktop, the Citrix environment, the conference rooms, anything associated with that. So pretty well, anybody ever had a complaint, it was my fault. So for instance, let's just get a show of hands. How many still have XP that they're using in the company to at least a small extent? So I think a lot of companies will probably have a little bit of that, probably running on Windows 7 with a certain number possibly working on Windows 10. You know, the help desk loves that type of stuff. It's real easy to help people. I'd say Office is probably very similar. I know it was with us. There are a little bit of 03, 7 out there, and of course, you work with any new customers or things like that, they want you to be on 16, so that would be out there too. So again, another challenge to the workplace experience. Exchange was real interesting. There we actually had 2007, we had 16, and we actually had the online version too. So those users that wanted to use a Mac got to use the online version. Others got to use a variation of the other. So again, a challenge to the workplace experience. OCS, Link, Skype for Business. I think many probably use Skype for Business. I think it got a pretty bad rap along there with OCS. Especially when it started doing screen sharing and all the problems associated with that. And then of course everybody wanted to use WebEx instead. So I'd say many companies had 2, 3, multiple solutions within their company to be able to do meetings of that nature. OneDrive, Dropbox, everything. I mean, the data can't get out of the company any quicker. So there are too many solutions right now for data to be leaving the company. Telepresence, phenomenal product. Doesn't integrate with anything very well, so therefore, another thing, it was really neat for the few that got to use it. Everybody else, it was a challenge. It was an emergency every time something didn't work that you couldn't connect to the other side. So it's again this thing of constantly having troubles understanding the workplace experience, which is supposed to be very easy. Conferencing, PBX, I mean, desk phones. How many spend their time talking on a desk phone much anymore? We support them in our companies. We use a lot of Cisco VoIP, phenomenal product. Nobody uses it, but it's really neat. We've put a lot of expensive phones on people's desks. And I touched on the Skype for Business, the WebEx, GoToMeeting, all great products and everything, but the more you put out there, the more confusion it creates. So this is kind of what you end up with. You know, you've got your workplace environment, you've got all of that, and somehow you're trying to tell the customer how they're supposed to work on a day-to-day basis. It's a challenge. Well, in this case, you use this. In this case, you use that. And believe me, they generally don't understand it. So you normally get something like this. You can find these, you can open up the Sunday's paper almost every day and find another one making fun of the workplace experience and how difficult it is. And how many meetings have you been to where first 15, 20 minutes is trying to get something to work? So I think it's pretty common. So over the Laird solution. We're going with Office 365, and no, I'm not going to go through and review Office 365, but I just kind of want to go let you know that is where we're going. That's how we're going to try to resolve this issue. So why we chose it. For starters, we had some things we were not going to change. We're going to stick with the Microsoft OS, and so that is going forward. Office Suite, we're not going to look at other things. We're going to use Word, Excel, PowerPoint. We're going to use the Office Suite. So if we're not looking at changing that, that's another Microsoft product. And Exchange, there's many options out there for various webmails, other solutions, but it's not something that we're even open to looking at. So with that, the other solutions we did look at, we looked at all the instant messaging. We had a different conferencing solution. We have an on-premise archiving solution that's all at all three of our data centers. So we've got those. So we looked at different solutions of how to go about that. File storage. We paid for Box.com. We've, of course, had all the free versions out there that everybody else is using. We have an external for spam protection. I've used Proofpoint, Symantec. They're great products and everything. And voice integration, phone solutions, websites with SharePoint. They're all things that we did look at other solutions for. What I liked about Office 365 is for everything we were looking at, it was included within the product. So therefore, it made it easier to make the decision. So some of the key considerations, I'm not going to spend much time here because this could be an hour conversation on every one of them. But on-premise versus cloud. We're relatively a small company. We don't have a ton of IT staff. It is difficult to have Exchange in 3 different data centers and the SharePoint in multiple data centers. So the more and more we can get to a cloud solution has been beneficial for us. I think it's obvious that's kind of where it's all going anyways eventually. So you can fight it for so long, but eventually it seems to be where everything is going. So we were very confident moving more towards a cloud solution with Office 365. CapEx versus OpEx, it's different, you know. Rather than selling these big upgrades every year, go into that OpEx. I mean, that quarterly charge is, it's substantial, but it's a difference, something you have to consider. It's a totally different way to pay for things. IT support costs, I'd like to say they go down. I mean, I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think they're just different. So, but I think it does streamline and it makes it easier for the help desk to understand and for the on-site people supporting people to understand this is our solution. If others come up, they know, no, we've already got a solution for that. We're not going to look at other items. Interoperability, well, that's I think key to everything. All of these individual products that you can choose, they just don't work well together. So it makes it harder and harder and harder to tell the customer how to work with the products. And then mobility. I think everything's going more mobile, and I like how Office 365, pretty well done, every piece of it has the mobility part of it. You can download a little app for almost every piece that's within Office 365, whether it's, you know, Teams or Planner or, you know, any one of them, they have a separate app for it. So it makes it very easy to be mobile. There's also an MDM solution that's within it. I've used several MDM solutions, and They're nice, but it pretty well takes dedicated resources to manage those. They're quite complicated. So I guess the key is it's a clear direction now with Office 365. So right now we have completed the Skype. That's fully in the cloud. We're approaching the end of our Exchange Online migration, moving everybody to Exchange. And Office Click to Run in Windows 10. That is our strategy going forward. It's a little harder to get there, but at least we have it outlined, and that's the direction that everybody knows. Any chance you have to get people upgraded to that. SharePoint Online, we're already using it. Everything new goes to SharePoint Online. Conferencing, we've already canceled our external vendor, and we've used the Microsoft conferencing. And then we've got projects going forward next year. We're going to be getting rid of our on-site archiving solution and using what's within Microsoft. Same with our Exchange spam protection. We're going to end up canceling that here in another month or two. Cloud PBX, we're at least going to start a pilot. A lot of analysis in that area to be able to go full forward with that, but I like the fact that there's at least a solution out there for it with Office 365. And then later on this year, we're kind of in the midst working with Covenant on the last two here, our intranet migration. So they've already done a scoping to verify if it's possible, how hard is it going to be, but I think moving our intranet to the cloud is a really good idea, especially with a global company. Right now it's in Denver, so all of APAC and everything have to come back. It's a 2010 environment. I think it's moving forward in the right direction. And then one we're just kicking off is relating to access management. We have a lot of SSO products. Pretty well everything relating to HR is already SSO. Most any application we look at now have that option. So the idea of single sign-on, we've got kind of a homegrown version of it now. I think it's time to get back into the way it should be done and the way it's supposed to be done. And then we're also going to start looking into a little bit of bring your own identity. We have about 4,000 or 5,000 users that are in the labor force. So therefore, we don't necessarily want to pay for the full everything to give them the full Office 365 license. So we're going to look at some of the bring your identity to see if that could possibly work out for us. So the takeaway, I would recommend, I'm not saying Office 365 is the greatest solution, but it is a solution that covers everything. And I think it's going to work for us, but I would certainly steer away from just purchasing what you think is the best product and all these different ones out there, because good luck in getting your customers to understand how to use it. It just creates confusion and complaints. Even though they may be phenomenal products, if the user can't figure out how to use them, they're just not going to use them. And again, no product meets all the needs. Again, I think Office 365 is pretty good. It covers most of them. It does it in their own way. It generally meets our needs, and that's the way we're going to form the business to do what they need rather than come up with requirements that Office 365 cannot do. And then again, keep it simple. Users just will not understand the complexities. So that is what I had. Any questions? Yes.
I was wondering, the Office 365 technically has two components. There's the full, everything's done in the web, the cloud, and then you can, like Microsoft Office, it can also be installed locally. What percentage of users are doing it full in the cloud versus it actually is installed on a local?
We're using the Office Click to Run, which also installs it locally. So we really don't have any other than we let them know the benefits of also being able to use the web solution out there.
So is your Exchange the only thing that's really always in the cloud?
Yes, Exchange is fully in the cloud, or at least for the ones that we've completed. We hope to have it done in about another month, but that has actually been going really well. It's a lot of work though. It's certainly not easy to totally move. Microsoft does a few things different. in the cloud, so you have to adjust to how that's being done. But I really like how their archiving and litigation hold works also. Yes?
Are you keeping identity local, or are you moving Active Directory into the cloud?
We don't know yet. So, I mean, we've got our ideas of probably how we're going to do it. So maybe Bruce will explain to us later after he finishes with the scoping project of what we're going to end up with. But right now we have it both. We're not fully federated.
The other question is, when you use the password reset, because that's one of the challenges with Office 365.
Yes, I know we were going to enable it just as it is right now within Office 365, but we decided to wait until we go through the scoping effort to find the best way. So, any others? Yes.
Yeah, talk a little bit, if you wouldn't mind, about all these changes you're going through, going from all these platforms that people have said, oh, I love this, this is the only way I know how to work. How are you managing all the change management that goes on with this condensing and streamlining of the pathway?
Guess it depends on who you ask. You could probably ask our training director, and she'll think not so good. But we try. It's very challenging because within Office 365 there are so many products available, and they're not for everybody. Everybody's going to use pieces of them. So I think what we're trying to do now is find a way to just show and demonstrate what is available and how it could be used. We've tried to show a little bit about how we use it personally within IT to try to at least give them ideas and be open to trying some of the new parts of it, especially when it gets into like Planner and Teams. And I mean, these are some new products that are out that they're pretty easy to use. I mean, it doesn't take a whole lot to necessarily show people how to use the product. It's just letting them know it's out there and how it integrates. We're having a little bit of challenges. I wish everybody was on Office Click to Run because there's more integration with the Office 2016 than there is with Office 2010. So you always get a little bit of that challenge if everybody is not on the same product when you're trying to do training or screenshots that you're doing for various things, because they're just not the same for everything.